Okay, so today this video is going to be about bone shatters and the defensive mechanic around it, the armor and whatnot, how everything works. It's going to be an in-depth exploration of the mechanic. It's more complicated. It's going to be a lot of me rambling. So if you're not interested into knowing how it works, and like, this is basically more for people who want to do their own builds or with bone shatters, or are just curious because they want to modify the version I made or the version of somebody else and they want to know exactly how bone shatter works. If you're not interested by that, do not watch this video because it's going to be useless to you. If you just want to play bone shatter, check the link in the description. There's a link to my actual build. For those of you who are still here, bone shatter is a weird mechanic, and the reason why I'm making this video is because I didn't find a lot of true statement or statement period about the mechanic of bone shatter. Most people either got it wrong or just don't explain it. I've checked a couple videos about like builds that were talking about bone shatters, and people do not explain how the skill works. So that's what I'm here for. And we're also going to talk about defense and what we can use to mitigate the damage that bone shatter trauma stack does to us. So we're going to start with the bone shatter AoE. Okay, the clear of bone shatter, how it works. Basically, there's a very common misconception that I'm going to start with, and it is that the AoE from bone shatter chains. It does not chain. I have tested this extensively because I've seen some videos and some people on Reddit that were saying that bone shatter explosion chains. It does not. It gives you the impression that it chains. One of the reason why is because if you're using stuff like Ancestral Call, it will give you additional strikes and will basically make multiple explosion happen. So if you have like 4 or 5 additional strikes, like most bone shatter builds have, it will look like it's chaining, but it's not. I've tested it without any additional thing, and it will not. If a mob dies, it won't do an explosion and chain to the next mob. So with that out of the way, the stun duration does increase the AoE. This is what you can find on the wiki, that the stun duration increases the AoE. What you can't find on the wiki is that normally when you're using a increase area of effect thing, there's a diminishing return that is commonly called DR in most video games. That means that the more you add, the less area of effect you're going to have. One thing I did notice, and it's very hard to make 100% sure, but what I did notice is that there is DR on the stun duration that you will stack, but it seems to have no DR with other area of effect. Let me explain. Let's say you have, I'm giving a crazy number here, 200 increased stun duration, okay? 200 increased stun duration will have a DR within itself, but then you add increased area of effect from another source. My belief, and there's no way to confirm this other than just try it and look, and it seems like that's what it does, is that the extra area of effect that you have will actually not be submitted to diminishing return, which is a good thing if you're playing like a Slayer that has area of effect included in its ascendancy. It will be a lot easier to have like a big explosion. But other than that, it's hard to scale. I tried many times to like boost the stun duration to a lot, and stun duration by itself has no multiplier other than one node on the tree that I don't remember what it is, but it's one of the masteries. It basically makes it 15 more multiplier for stun duration. Other than that, it's all additive stun duration that you can get. And I remember I tried it at like 150 duration without flat area of effect increase, so only stun duration, and the AoE was extremely underwhelming. If you don't have a lot of sources from increased AoE, my belief in that is that it is not worth stacking. One of the other reasons why it's not stacking, and this is not a bone shatter thing, this is just a melee strike skill thing, and I'm going to talk about it because it's very important in my build. is a melee strike range. And melee strike range, for those of you who don't know, means that you will hit things further from you. So let's say I have 0 melee strike range and I'm trying to hit that map device here. This is the range I can hit it. So if that map device is a mob, and with 0 melee strike range, I gotta be super melee. If I go to 3 melee strike range, maybe I can hit it from here. I'm gonna take that off because it's super annoying. Maybe I can hit 3 and then 4 and 10. Oh, it's more like 10, 15, and 20. The melee strike range doesn't add up that quick, but you know, it's hard to do with my mouse. But basically, if you're at like 30 something melee strike range, that's the kind of Kira, come on, man. That's the kind of distance you're gonna have from the monster that you can hit. So if you look at this, my strategy, because I've tried, if you guys watch my videos, I love clear. The most important part in the build is clear. I'm sacrificing a lot of damage just to have even a better clear. Like this melee physical damage support has +2 to melee strike range because it's anomalous, and I'd rather have that than an awakened one because I don't care about the extra damage. I want my mobs and my maps to go boom. And what this does basically is that mobs from that distance are going to get hit from me standing here and smashing if I have a lot of melee strike range. And there is no DR to melee strike range, so it's very good to stack it. That's why I took the decision to go melee strike range over explosion. Basically what I'm using Boneshatter for is just like if you add an explodey chest, it's just going to explode mobs that are stacked within each other, but it's not going to blow your entire screen up. What will blow your entire screen up is going to be the multiple hits that I have from Ancestral Call and from my 1 or 2 passives that I have in here that are going to strike like 4 or 5 targets at the same time, which is going to, and they can strike target behind you too. So that means that if I have melee strike range far enough, like where my map device is, now if I click here and I strike, it's going to blow up the entire screen. And this is what you want, okay? If you don't do this, it's going to be like if you go with your melee strike range, let's say you can hit from here, you're going to strike, and then stuff is going to explode in that range, but there's going to be a lot of monsters around you, stragglers that are not there. So it was very important for me to increase the number of strikes I can do and the number of melee strike range that we can have. You can stack area of effect, just make sure you don't only try to stack stun duration, because there is DR and the AoE is going to stay very, very small. What else for the clear? Oh yeah, there's a node. I'm going to talk about it because I've seen some videos that people got wrong. Okay, strike skill which target additional enemies can do so from 30 further away, ergo your Ancestral Call and whatnot. Also, this is one of the reasons I'm using Ancestral Cry. That's why it's so powerful with this skill. It's because it's going to add 8 melee strikes. It's going to add 6 melee strike range if there's a bunch of monster around you, which is a fuck ton, and it's going to strike 2 additional target also on top of everything else you've got. So it's a very, very good boost. And the more I heard people say that, oh, it doesn't really add up. Look, we're going to do some basic math, okay? Because I thought so too, but as you start stacking the melee strike range, this node becomes better and better and better. Let me explain. I believe my strike range is around 35 right now. But let's stay low. Let's say you've got 25 melee strike range. If your target can strike around 30% further away, that's like adding 7 strike range to your character, 7.5 strike range to your character instantly. So it's so powerful. Like, I've heard a couple content creators say it's not good. Trust me, guys, as if you have a minimum of melee strike range, this is how much it's going to add. 7 is a lot. And let's say you had 35. It will add 10 melee strike range to your thing. Like, you really got to use that node. It's a very good clear node, and I strongly recommend it. Okay, now we're getting in the nitty gritty of Boneshatter. We're going to talk about the trauma stack. There's a lot of mathematical things going on in trauma stack. I'm going to try to simplify it. Basically, you're getting hit, and this is information you can find in the wiki. Basically, you're getting hit by 194 of damage per trauma stack, okay? And we got to find a way to mitigate that damage. Now, mitigating 194 trauma stack, to give you an idea of like what kind of damage you can get, with my attack speed, I could go like, and I'm investing in Blitz, so I'm probably the character with the most attack speed out there, so I'm gonna figure that to get over 30 trauma stack in a boss fight, you wouldn't have to like be extremely low attack, extremely fast attack speed, which you've only invested in it, or you do so little damage that you have time to stack the trauma before the boss dies. But I'm going to assume that 30 trauma stack is going to be like the highest you can go. If you go for a 30 trauma stack perspective, it's going to be 5,820 damage. Good. You're telling me, right, okay, that's a lot of damage. If I get hit by that, I die. The common thing you can do is stack armor. Here's my problem. The maximum you can stack, and try to stay with me here because it's very complicated. The way armor works in Path of Exile, I'll try to explain this as simple as possible. The more damage you're getting hit from, so the bigger the hit, the less the armor is going to have effect. To make it simple, we're gonna say I have 8 endurance charges, okay? 8 endurance charges on a Juggernaut will give you 40% damage reduction. That phys damage reduction is calculated at the same time from armor. And the maximum damage, physical damage reduction you can have from armor or endurance charges is 90%. Doesn't matter how much armor you got, you will never lower hit lower than 90%, okay? So what we're going to do is assume that because my endurance charge is a flat number, it's 40%, that we need 50% from armor. To get 50% from a hit from armor, basically, you need 5 times the armor, okay? This is the simplest I can put it. So, to mitigate 50% of that hit, we need 30,000 armor. Everything over that is wasted, okay? Everything over 30,000 armor is wasted. So when you see a build that don't have endurance charges, you can go a bit higher. But just as an example, like if you want to reduce it by another, like if you want to max it to 90% without the endurance charges, it would take you, it's 15%. It would take you 87,000 armor. You need to stack evasion and a bunch of shit to get that kind of number. It makes absolutely no sense. It will cost you way too much. I've seen people trying to hit 60,000 armor on their Juggernaut, and it will only probably block the hit for like 70%. So all that investment and you still have less mitigation than I do. That being said, there is a way to reduce that incoming hit even further. The way calculation is done, I told you it was going to be complicated. So we've got that amount of armor, that amount of damage coming toward us from our own hits. So you're punching the enemy, you're getting hit, your endurance charges and armor reduce that thing by 90%. I'm stupid. Okay, so this is the remaining hit, okay? Now, if you're trying to add more, and I've seen people on PoE Ninja trying to stack Arctic armor, and it's because they don't know how the physical damage is actually calculated, because if you add Arctic armor or any source of less take, I think that's the phrasing, less physical damage taken, it will be applied after armor calculation and endurance charges calculation of the reduction. So the 25% that less damage that you're going to take physically is going to be applied to that number, to 582. Also, before that reduction, that's when Fortify is taken into account. So it's one of the reasons why Fortify isn't as effective on build that stack armor, is because it gets the hit will get reduced after armor calculation, or after elemental reduction calculation if we're talking about an elemental hit. But in our case, it's going to be physical damage. So in our case, we're using fortification. So let's see how much that fortification is going to reduce the amount. So my fortification is 23 and 23%, so 77, just for rough calculation, is what's going to be left. So it basically takes off like 448. It takes off roughly 150 damage. So there's no way for us to mitigate more damage than that. And 448 damage in your face every, I don't know, it's a lot. And that's why I say in my video, do not go over 25 trauma stack. And this one, I'm going to talk about Multistrike because of that in a second. 448 damage per second is a lot. Let's say you hit, like in my case, I hit around 7 hit per second without Multistrike. So yeah, that's the kind of damage you're going to take. That's why I say you can't go higher than 20-25 trauma stack. And even if you do find a way to like mitigate it even more, as soon as you're going to get some degen, and that's what happened to me when I was testing it, as soon as there were some degen on the ground, or any form like the Maven Puddle, you can't, there's no way to mitigate it. It just reduces your life leech, your life regen by so much that even if you get hit by very small hits and you keep hitting, you're going to kill yourself eventually because you can't regen your health. And I thought this was very interesting, very important to know that whatever kind of mitigation you will try to do, 30 trauma stack is going to be the very best you can reach. That being said, there is a way to mitigate that kind of damage, and it's Multistrike. Why? Because every time you hit a target, it's going to give you a trauma stack in a normal situation. If you use Multistrike, you will get 1 trauma stack per 3 hit, because Multistrike hits 3 times, but they do not have trauma stack. It does. So what does it mean? It means that for, if we go on my POB real quick, right now, trauma stack is thick. I have 9 attack per second with everything pulled off. So that means that in that 9 second, I'm going to have a 4... I'm super good at math. And I still managed to do this, so yeah. Sorry, my brain is fried today. So it's gonna be 3 attacks, 3 times that we're going to get hit by our trauma stack. Okay, so per second we're gonna stack 3 trauma stack instead of like 7. So right off the bat, we're reducing by a lot the damage we're going to take. Also, but there's a downside. Trauma stacks are going to be harder to scale. I didn't put a million currency into my builds, but I managed to, on big bosses, to stack my trauma stack up to 15. So my damage does get upgraded up to 15. And I personally, without degen, felt comfortable to go around 20-25 trauma stack. Problem is, and that's one of the reasons I'm running priority of element, because I really do not want to get any elemental ailment like chill or ignite that is going to do overtime damage to me, or lower my regen, because then my very small hits that hit very fast, my health can keep up and I die. I kill myself on bosses. So the best way for you to deal with this, in my opinion, is to just, like, Multistrike was my solution. Not only that, but it costs 1/3 of the mana, because In normal situation, every hit would cost you mana, but Multistrike costs you the mana one time every 3 hit. So this is what allows me not to have the channeling skill minus mana cost on every piece of gear. So did I forget anything? Let me check my list. No, I think I talked about everything. The degen, yeah, then the degen pool. So that's it for the little mechanic guide. I don't think I've forgotten anything. So Boneshatter is a very special mechanic, and I've explained to you the reason why I use what I used in my build. I hope if you're trying your own thing, if you're trying to do your own build, I really hope this is going to help you, because I had no information whatsoever when I started. It was a pain in the dick. If you got any question, ask in the comment. I'll do my best to answer. Thank you for watching.